Welcome to the Concrete Genius podcast, man. I'm your host, the Concrete Genius, Sauce McKenzie. And this is an honor above honors for someone like me. You know, I have the honor to have a man who's, in my opinion, one of the true pioneers of Black independent media, a trailblazer, you know what I mean, never scared to give his opinion. He mixes sports, life, and comedy to create a brilliant, unique lane for himself. Robert Littal, how you doing, sir?
Hey, man, I appreciate that intro. I appreciate you having me on. It always warms my heart when I see other people doing their own thing, especially people that look like me in whatever space that they do. So I'm always available to you and to your platform and any other platform out there because our voices, especially now, are needed more than ever.
Amen. Amen. First off, how you doing? Mental health check, Black man. How you doing?
Well, you always got to check, as they say, your chickens and all of that stuff. I was just talking about that with someone, or actually just in general the other day, is that, we live in a time where it's a lot of crazy things going on. And if you do have the opportunity to kind of step away from your laptops and your phones and spend some time outside or just alone reading a book with your family, whatever makes you happy, your video games or whatever it may be, take a little peace in your mind, please do. I know I spent way too much time in my earlier years, just staring at, a computer, staring at a TV, being too engaged in social media, and that messes with you because there's a lot of evil people, a lot of evil in this world, and if you get kind of caught up in it, you miss out on life, and life is short. So I'm doing good. I'm in a great headspace these days. So I'm just trying to make sure other people are as well and doing anything that I can do to help people get in that same mind state.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well said. Well said. And it's very important that you say that because a lot of times, I shut it down for a couple of days, man. I deal with the family. I watch some games with the kids, man. I go coach. Like, you really have to really compartmentalize this and get away from it sometime, to your point.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
So let me ask you, what sparked your interest in journalism?
I wanted to be a journalist almost from the time that I can remember, 6, 7 years old. I had a serious interest in sports, just like a lot of kids, but I also had an interest in reading about sports and watching news about sports. As early as I can remember, when we were blessed to have cable back in the day, as an only child, I would stay up and I would watch the sports centers with Keith Olbermann and Dan Patrick and Stuart Scott. Stuff like NFL Prime Time with Chris Berman. My mom, she worked for the city, and in the waiting rooms at the city hall, she worked at City Hall. They would have sport news magazines, Sports Illustrated magazines, USA Today newspapers, and she would bring those home to me, and I would at 8, 9 years old, other people kind of reading cartoons and all this stuff. I'm reading Sports Illustrated front, to back, and I always tell people it helped with my vocabulary because sports has kind of its own vernacular and everything. So from a young age, I wanted to be in journalism in some fashion. I wanted to be the local, because back then, the big guy was the local sports news anchor. He was famous. The guy in whatever, because you're in a city and you're young and you're Black. Sometimes you don't realize a big whole world, out there. So to us, the local news guy that did the sports for the NFL team, he was the guy. So my idea as a young kid was, I want to be that guy. I want to be the host. Maybe one day I can be, ESPN wasn't big as it is now, but maybe one day I can be like Stuart Scott or Keith Olbermann and do the highlights. I remember I used to practice. It's kind of weird. I used to practice doing the highlights as a kid. I would turn the volume down when the highlights were on, like ESPN or on the news and everything, and then I would do the highlights and out loud. And my mom would kind of catch me in there doing that. She said, who are you talking to? No, I'm like, Mom, I'm practicing doing the highlights. So it was kind of a lifelong dream for me that took a lot of different detours. But in the end, I guess I got to the stop that I needed to get to.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's a determining passion. That's a real determining passion. It's crazy you said that because I used to idolize. I don't know if you remember. You remember George Michael Sports Machine?
Oh yeah, the
He,
sports machine, 12 o'clock at our time. Yeah, I think it was on NBC back in the day. Yeah.
yeah. My mom would let me stay up to watch it because it was just he would. That was really the only way to get a rundown on all the games back in the day. So yeah,
Mm.
it was real important, man. It was real important. Now let me ask you, what made you decide to take the independent route though?
Well, it wasn't like any type of like super master plan or anything. I just couldn't get a job
Mm,
in media after college. And I stress this so much to young people in college right now. And I actually mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. I found this out way later. When you're in college, man, go to class, do get your schooling and everything, have your fun. But by all means, please make some connections. Reach out to people in the industry, find mentors, find internships. Because what I learned, coming out of college is that degree, while it's great to have, when someone asks you, what experience do you have? Who do you know in the industry? That stuff is more important than if you had a 3.0 or 3.5, GPA. So, I got out of college, I got my degree, one of the few people in my family that ever got a college, degree. But then when I went back home, those jobs just wasn't available, to me. They were looking for people that had some experience, and I hadn't did as much as I should have when I was in college. But thankfully, around that time, and this is kind of a weird type of thing, when I was in college, just like every young black man of the late '90s, early 2000s, I wanted to be a rapper. So I had learned how to create a website to promote my rap music. Back then, message boards and forums were like kind of the social media. And uploading your MP3s and your MySpace and your Black Planet and stuff like that. So I had learned like this coding and how to do some remedial, website building, trying to, get my rap career off the ground. And so just one day I was watching the NFL playoffs. Joe Buck was calling the game. The story is kind of, one of those origin stories. He's calling the Minnesota Vikings and Green Bay Packers game in Green Bay. Randy Moss goes off, fake moons the crowd. Joe Buck loses his mind and basically called him everything but an N-word
yeah,
on national television. And
I
I
remember.
was in an actual chat room or forum chatting with some guys watching the game because that's kind of what we did to do like we do on Twitter now. That's what we used to do back in the day. We'd be in a chat room talking about the game. And the guy said to me, hey, man, I wish there was more, black people that talked about mainstream sports because, they would understand Randy Moss better. They'll be able to explain it to people better, his upbringing and stuff. We got people like Joe Buck. He don't understand, what's going on. And it just kind of sparked something in me. And it was around my birthday. And I just was like, I'm going to I kicked some names around and I came up with Black Sports Online because I wanted it to be, black owned, black independent owned. I wanted people to know that it was a black person running it, but it was also someone that could talk about, news and sports news in a way that they hadn't heard before. And at the time, I didn't think much of it besides the fact that it was going to help me potentially give me something to put on a resume to hopefully get an
Yeah.
actual job, with an actual news company or newspaper or radio station or TV or whatever. It just, by the grace of God, it just kind of happened around the same time that the technology really changed and the way people consumed their news changed. And I just happened to already kind of be in that field when it happened and when it kind of exploded, kind of the early 2010s, I was perfectly positioned to kind of take advantage of what I had already built. So I say it's part luck, part, finding a niche that kind of no one ever had. And then, the rest is just hard work and dedication, as Mayweather would say.
Nah, that's amazing, man. It's basically, to put it in rap terms, you basically went, cash money or no limit. You had to just
Mm.
create your own lane. That's tremendous. And as the game grew, you would already on the technology side, you grew with it. Now, that made me want to ask you, you basically in the beginning, you were doing everything. You were making the bread, mopping the floors. You were doing everything when it came to your business, right? Yeah.
Yeah, even today I do probably more than what I should at
Yeah.
this point. But it's one of those things. It's kind of a gift and a curse. It's a unique site. It's a unique social media spaces, and people are very familiar with with me, I should say. Back in the day when people created sports websites, you never knew the owner. You never knew who was behind the website. You rarely even knew who wrote the stories. If I asked you right now who writes the stories for TMZ Sports, you wouldn't know. You know TMZ, you know Harvey, but you don't know who writes the stories, right? If I
Yeah.
ask you who's the main writers on the big lead, you wouldn't know
Yeah.
that off top. It was the site that had the branding, not the individual. And I kind of blended that together where I was someone that wanted to be out front, so I became part of the brand. And then therefore the brand really kind of only works with, me kind of at the steering wheel for it. So while I've, gave up some things and had thankfully the opportunity to share with other people and give other people opportunities that I didn't have, kind of coming up in the business. It's still even today, I'm the face kind of the organization, and when you see a particular headline or you see a particular post or you just see things kind of out in the wind, if that's come from me or not, even if my face is not even involved in it.
Yeah. The headlines are some of the greatest in the game. Like I used to always say, man, it's just gold jacket headlines and creativity. You may put 19 things in a 280 character headline. And I'm like, yo, the ability to do that was just amazing. So did you initially, once you started growing the brand and you started coming along, did you receive pushback from the establishment, like being independent?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I was told early on that I would never be able to make any money with black in front like that. It was
Wow.
okay for like TV, like BET. It was okay for gossip, like the entertainment world, but that was not going to work with sports. That was not. They were. I was never going to be mainstream with black in the front of it and being out front. Like that. I was told that early on to change the name, stay in the background, don't be so opinionated on things. And I find it funny because a lot of the things that they told me, I shouldn't have been doing, 10 years ago is what everybody do now. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
the takes, the creativeness, the more opinionated things, the different headlines, the mixing of sports and sports entertainment. These are things that I was told 10 years ago would never work in a mainstream media establishment. And then you look at, today's media world, sports media world, that's pretty much all that mainstream sports media is right now. So I'm kind of glad I kind of stuck, to my guns and things of that nature. Sorry about my dog. I think
Oh,
he
you
hears
good. You good.
he hears a car or something. But so yeah, so I had a lot of pushback, especially
Yeah.
early on.
Yeah. I understand it. And usually when you're a trailblazer, people try to, they see your gift and you probably was ahead of the curve. And it's good you were because you was able to carve out a piece of your lane. I wanna take it to the Midwest and I want to ask you, what was life for you growing up like in St. Louis, and what about St. Louis kind of shaped you into who you are today?
Well, like I said, I'm always speaking about coming from St. Louis, and that environment that I was in kind of taught me, a couple of different things. First off, it taught me how to kind of take care of myself because it's not where I grew up was not for the weak of heart. It taught me to use my brain, but also, to stick up for myself and things of that nature. It's not a small city, but it's not a big city. So, it's kind of one of those type of things where a lot of people kind of get stuck there because they don't feel comfortable going out in the world. But I will say that the things that happened to me in St. Louis, from a young age until maybe I went off to college, is my foundation of kind of everything that I am today, how I see the world, how I saw the world. It was really two different, I would say, for me growing up, it was kind of two different halves of my life. There was this first half of my life, through elementary school, to where all I knew was just, the hood, just like I would imagine a lot of other people. I didn't know anything, else. I was curious, but I didn't think there was much else to it. My mom sent me off to high school at a predominantly white high school, kind of outside of the city, and seeing that and just kind of observing those type of issues as far as racism and how people look at you and how to kind of navigate those particular situations and things like that, even at 15, 16, 17 years old. I kind of took those lessons with me to when I went off, to college. And, when I went off to, Ohio State, which is also in the Midwest, big college, a lot of different people there, a lot of different things going on. You learn how to communicate and how to navigate, in this world. And you realize that there's more than just, what you may have seen as a kid. And to me, it gave me motivation because I knew there was more things out there. But you got to go get it. You got to go look for it. You got to go see it. And when you do that, I think as you become an adult and you become our age, now you can give that wisdom back to people that might be, in the same situations we were in 10, 15 years ago. Now you can help them to make sure they don't get caught in that trap of just being, in one place for the rest of, their life.
Yeah. Great point. Great point. Great point. Midwest cuts you different, man. It teaches you how to survive off instinct, teaches you how to talk to people, how to stick up for yourself, but also avoid confrontation if possible. But it also gives you the wisdom and, articulation somewhat to kind of deal with other races and deal with other people and have a calm demeanor where you can kind of work with people of all ethnicities and stuff like that. That's really big. That's really big. Now, for those that don't
absolutely.
know, yeah. For those that don't know, you gotta your boxing takes are amazing, real fluid. That's what really years ago got me interested to you when I saw you talking boxing from a black perspective, and it was so intense. But it was real life, like right there. You were at ringside, you were giving analysis, you were at press conferences. So what sparked your love for boxing in the beginning?
Well, one of the things I tell people as an only child and a lover of sports, what ended up happening, especially back, there was no Netflix, wasn't all these social media. Yeah, you had your like 30 channels, back then. And when you were bored, well, I was bored I would watch everything. I watched tennis, I watched golf, I watched speed skating, just whatever was on. If it was sports, I was watching it. And back then, what a lot of people don't know is boxing was on a lot on network, television. And I grew up in I would say the Tyson era is when I kind of, got into it. So in the Tyson era, it became a big thing. Families would come together, come over, you have a fight party and everything. But I was also in like the Hagler and the Hearns and the Sugar Ray Leonard era. So I had all these great fighters, that I was watching, and, I became a fan of boxing. But specifically, one of the reasons I would say that my knowledge of boxing is sometimes at a higher level than some of the other things that I cover is that when I first started in the business, they were the only one that let me cover events. The NFL wouldn't let me cover, the NBA wouldn't let me cover, MLB wouldn't let me cover. I couldn't get in, even though, because back then they didn't take websites the independent websites seriously as serious journalists. So you would ask to go to the NBA finals or a playoff game or the Super Bowl or to cover a team as a beat reporter, and they would laugh at you. And I'd get doubly laughed at because I was black. So the boxing, in a sense, was the first really, I would consider, mainstream sport that welcomed in independent media. Put us ringside at the Floyd Mayweather fights, at the Manny Pacquiao fights, some of the biggest fights, in the history of sports, some of the biggest events in the history of sports. And even today now, boxing is carried by independent media. If you watch a press conference or you watch a media day, it's the guys that do the YouTube channels, it's those independent websites. Those are the people that promote boxing better than anybody else. So I owe a debt of gratitude to them because when they saw me interviewing Manny Pacquiao, they saw me interviewing Floyd Mayweather, they saw me interviewing Canelo Alvarez, they saw me interview Shane Mosley, they saw me doing these interviews, they saw me in the gym, they saw me at the event, then I could take that to the NFL and say, hey, man, look, I'm talking to the number one athlete in the world right now on Forbes list. Why are you holding me back? And I use that leverage from the boxing to get into other sports. That's why I always, talk about boxing, because no matter what it's going through, I owe a debt, to them to make sure that people know about the sport, to know what's going on with the sport, even though it can drive you a little crazy sometimes. But it is probably, not even probably, it's my favorite sport to watch in person. There's no crowd experience that when right before that opening bell of a big fight, or when someone gets knocked down or knocked out. The only thing I can ever, people ask me, the only thing that is anything that I've ever felt similar to that is when Steph Curry goes off in the old Oracle Arena, not the new one.
Yeah.
In the old
Yeah.
Oracle Arena, when Steph would hit like 1-3, hit 2 3s, when he got up to like that 4-3 in a row, that building would like physically shake when he would go off. And that's kind of the only thing I can explain that's like boxing,
Wow.
or even UFC to a certain extent, when someone gets, kind of knocked out.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. What's the best fight you feel like you've witnessed live?
Ooh, the best. I felt like the best, man. I've seen so many. Wilder Fury 3 were one of the best fights that had a great atmosphere. There was a fight between, and it wasn't like the best fight of all time, but as far as atmosphere, there was Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. versus Sergio Martinez. I don't know if you remember that. And Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. wasn't any good, but they had like a lot of tension, and it was at it was at the UNLV basketball arena. And in the 12th round, after getting his ass whooped for 11 rounds, he knocked down Sergio Martinez, and I can't think of a crowd that was louder than when I saw that. Triple G and Canelo won.
Yeah.
One of the greatest fights that I've seen, in person. Mayweather Cotto, one of the greatest fights I've seen in person. Marquez Pacquiao, where he laid out Pacquiao, and the memes that created memes. I don't know if
Right.
people know that.
Is that it?
But like that was the create. I mean, it was, how stuff like is around, but then it becomes like it blows up. That night when Pacquiao was on the ground and they put the little lion from the Lion King, Simba, on him, that created the meme genre, or the genre that you see now when something happens and they add little animations and all that stuff. It came, from that night. So I've been to so many great, events. I could probably talk to you an hour about that. I was there at 28-3 when the Patriots came back. I saw LeBron's block and Kyrie's 3 coming back from 3-1. It's just so much that you see, and life goes past fast. I mean, I was there. Probably my most favorite part. I was there at Avengers Infinity War, the first time that they showed it to anyone, and at the end of it, everybody dead. And there was an audible gasp, like, because no big movie like that had ever ended where the bad guy won.
Yeah.
It was just crazy. So I've been very blessed to do a lot of kind of great things.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing, man. And I don't have this down, but just off topic, what was it like for you being a fan? What was it like in real time watching Floyd's greatness and covering that?
Well, you see, that's what I always try to tell people. Like, yeah, we have a responsibility as journalists to be unbiased and to be fair and report like accurate information. But any sports journalist, at their core, we're sports journalists because we love, sports. Following, Floyd, kind of, especially, I came in on the Money Mayweather side. I had always watched the Pretty Boy side. I remember when he whooped Corrales'
Yeah.
So, but as far as a journalist, I kind of came in on that money Mayweather side. And I think maybe the most important thing that it showed boxers is that you are a commodity. This is entertainment as well as boxing. You can make a certain amount of money if you present yourself in a certain type of way. And from a business standpoint, I think that's something that a lot of boxers still use today. I think the difference between them and Floyd is Floyd is actually fought like a lot of people. He fought like a lot of hard fights. That's the part that some of these young guys don't understand. You can make the money, but you also, make the fights. But those Vegas weekends, they were events. And I think it was a time that shifted in boxing. And like I said, you had a little bit with the Tyson era, but after Tyson, I think it kind of fell off a bit where people were going to Vegas. The fight almost was secondary to, oh, I'm going to see Chris Brown, or the rappers are going to be there, the
Yeah.
athletes are going to be there.
Yeah.
And that's something that you see now, when, say, Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia fought. I saw people that wasn't necessarily boxing fans, but they were there for the event. You saw it with Earl and Bud, Canelo and Charlo. And I think it's that blueprint that he made is what we're still seeing the kind of fruits of that labor even today in boxing.
Great point. Great point. And people don't understand. I frequent Vegas a lot, and I haven't been to the fights there, but I've been in town for a lot of fights to watch the fights in Vegas, and just the energy in the town on fight weekend is just so different. Especially even when it's like, if it's a Mexican fighter, or like when it's Triple G, like you see a lot of nationalities. You see people come out with flags, thousands of people, and it's just like, it's a tension in the air, anticipation that you don't really get with a lot of other sports.
Yeah, it's it's a lot of nationalism. People are very serious about if it's a Mexican and a Puerto Rican, like they take that type of stuff
Yeah.
very seriously and things like that. There is a camaraderie, I think, in boxing that you don't get for a lot of fans, a lot of sports and everything like that. And like you said, it's one of the the few, like I always say, you don't play boxing. Like we can go out and play, football. We can go shoot some hoops. We can go golf. We can play tennis and stuff. But if you're like, hey, let's go box, I'd be like, eh. Like go. They say, man, you want to shoot some hoops? Oh yeah, cool. I can shoot some
Yeah,
hoops.
let's
Hey, you
go.
want to
Yeah.
spar 3 rounds? Eh, I don't know about that. So the fact that those guys fight in sports, I think the fans have such a respect, for them, because they know that's not something that the average everyday person can just walk outside and do. And you got to kind of be a little screwy to get in the ring and let somebody punch you in the head for 40, 45 minutes as well. So it definitely has a different vibe to it.
Now, I want to ask you, man, and over your time, and just as an independent thought, do you see a lot of the discrepancies between the way black athletes are covered and white athletes?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was just talking about that yesterday. Chris Olave basically got a glorified speeding ticket. And don't get me wrong, because after what happened to Henry Ruggs, I would not encourage anybody to be, especially an athlete that has so much to lose, and to be speeding at any point. You shouldn't be going 70 into 35. Maybe we've all done it at times, but we really shouldn't, because we could put your life and somebody's life, other lives, in danger. But the way it was ported was just odd to me. First off, they didn't really give a lot of information, and then they say, "Oh, well, he didn't resist,"
Yeah.
like as if he had committed like a crime. Like he had,
Yeah.
he was running away or something like that. Most people, when they get a speeding ticket, just take the ticket. And even like
Right.
you get arrested for a bad tag. Like there's levels of that, and you have to wonder if that was Baker Mayfield, would they had even added that sentence, into it.
Yeah.
So it's tough because you want to, be able to critique. Everybody should be able to critique someone, but you find yourself having to defend black athletes more just because of the way that they're treated. You see how Lamar Jackson is treated different than, say, a Josh Allen. It's or how Brock Purdy, year is treated better than Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts did something similar to Brock Purdy, but whatever. So it's definitely out there. It's always going to be out there because 80% or more of the people that are reporting on sports on the inside and the outside are white males. And the main sports in America that we watch, NBA, NFL, those two sports are predominantly black athletes. There's always going to be a disconnect with that, and we're seeing it more in the locker rooms, and we're seeing it more now that the athletes have an avenue to speak on the reports that are on them, and there's conflict there. So there's a fine line between, hey, let's just do an honest and unbiased critique, and then there's some inherent prejudice just because you hung out with a guy that looked like Josh Allen in college and a guy that Lamar Jackson inherently you may be afraid of for literally no reason at all, just because
No
you grew
reason.
up on that stereotype.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what really pissed me off, I don't know if you remember, when Bill Poland just said Lamar Jackson should be a wide receiver, and I'm like,
Yeah,
come on, man. You got guys like Tannehill who converted and Matt Jones who converted that, and you gonna say this about a guy who's a Heisman winner? Like, come on, man. That's when I knew. I'm like,
it should be out of. Like, here's the thing: when they came out of college, Josh Allen was terrible in college. Everybody acknowledges that. Nobody ever said, "Man, he should be a tight end" because he's that big.
Right.
It's just it's inherent. And they don't think it's racism. They're just like, oh, we're just being an evaluation. But when you have a 80-year-old white man doing evaluations on a 20-year-old black quarterback, and he's been doing evaluations in the NFL and college since the 60s, the 50s. Of course, he's going to have an inherent. He wants his quarterback to look like Troy Aikman. I mean, that's just the way it is. And I tell people this all the time, and they don't want to hear it. But if you just watch your Sunday ticket, right? You watch your Sunday ticket, you watch your Red Zone channel, right? You look at the quarterbacks around the league. There's going to be a lot more Lamar Jacksons than there's going to be Brock Purdy's. And even Brock Purdy can run a little bit. But there's not going to be any Matt Ryans anymore. There's not going to be any Peyton Mannings, Eli Mannings, Tom Brady's. That's out. That's not going to work. These defensive guys are too big, too fast. The guys that can't move are not going to be able to succeed in there. And you see it. You see it with Patrick Mahomes. They try to act like Patrick Mahomes is not black, but he is. And that's why he's over there running around and all of that stuff. That's that his father was a baseball player. A major league baseball player. His mom did nothing. Those genes ain't coming from her. You know what I'm saying? They're coming from Pop. And those are going to be the Super Bowl champions going forward. Guys that are like that. And I give you a perfect example of what you're talking about. I had never, ever in my life seen ESPN put up a graphic that said total TDs when it came to quarterbacks until Josh Allen. Now with Josh Allen, it's total TDs, running and passing. But they had never did that for Michael Vick or, Lamar Jackson or Donovan McNabb. It was, passing TDs. They never included, it never said he has X yards and these total TDs until it made sense for them, until they had somebody. Now all of a sudden, Josh Allen's a freak of nature and all of this stuff. And it's not a knock on him because, he can't control how he's covered. But you can see the difference when the guy that's doing the exact same thing that Cam Newton did. Josh Allen and Cam Newton, same guy. They're the exact same guy. It's nothing really different, about him. Except Cam has won a MVP and been to a Super Bowl. But it's totally different about how now they speak about them in their prime. If you go back and look at Cam Newton highlights from his third, fourth, fifth year in the league, you'd be like, that's black Josh Allen. She's the same person.
Right. That's a great point. Yeah. They do that a lot, man. And I'm glad that social media and just different perspectives has allowed us in. Because when it was Cam, it'd be like 8 passing TDs, 12 rushing TDs. And I'm like, it's 20 TDs, man. Like
a TD is a TD. A yard is a yard, as I always say. If I throw for 3,000 yards and run for 1,000, and you throw for 4,000, we did the same thing for our team. We got our team 4,000 yards. It doesn't matter how we got it. If you throw for 30 TDs and I ran for 10 and threw for 20, they counted the same. But the perception, and that's why it's tough, because media makes the perception, because the normal average everyday fan is not that bright. So if they hear Dan Orlovsky or whatever I'm not just calling him out, just in general, Rex Ryan or whatever, say a certain thing, they just assume because they're on TV that it's true when the eyes tell you that it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing that bothers me is like, it's still a couple of things. We haven't got enough to be black in the league. You almost still got to be spectacular. And then two, a lot of times when it's the black QB, his situation isn't taken into account. But if it's a white QB that's playing bad, then it's always the coordinator learning a new offense. This is third offense, it's 3 years, but they don't always offer that same grace. So I'm glad people are kind of seeing through the smoke and mirrors now, you know?
Yeah, well, what's interesting, I think, and the NFL is not a beacon of, I would say, equality. Let's put it like that. But I will say that it at least seems to me that the coaches, the head coaches have, because the coaches just care, most coaches just care about winning.
Right.
And they know they can't win if their quarterback is not somewhat mobile. So you do see where the brothers are getting drafted a little higher, where they're taking a little more risk on some of the things, and really they have no choice because look at all the college quarterbacks this year that are potential like first and second round picks. It's like 8 brothers and the kid from North Carolina, one white guy. So they have no choice at this point.
Yeah.
But the media still has not came around to the fact that just because you're a quarterback, you can't do multiple things. And unless you're kind of like a Patrick Mahomes, who they really try to focus on the whiteness of it, his wife, his
Yeah.
kids, and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that's Patrick's fault, but they
Yeah.
almost, they look at him like, well, he's not, he's Tiki Barber, basically. He's not, one of them.
Yeah.
And it's obvious in the way that they portray it. Like every time that Lamar and Patrick play each other, it's the way, I don't like the way it's oftentimes presented. Like this is the right way and this is the wrong way. When Patrick plays the wrong way, technically, all the
Yeah.
time, he was really good at it.
Really,
He's flying, he's
Yeah.
throwing stuff out behind the back, all these crazy stuff.
Yeah.
That's not
Yeah.
traditional football, but because they like him and he fits into their box of what they be, he's on the Subway commercial. And Lamar Jackson, who has more perfect passer ratings than Patrick Mahomes, he's not on the Subway commercial, and we know why.
And what they don't know is, Patrick Mahomes' dad is full-blooded Negro, like not
Oh,
like
yeah, I bet
so
him.
that's
He's,
like you said, to your point, that's
yeah,
coming from somewhere, that's coming
yeah,
from somewhere.
yeah.
That's coming from somewhere. So before I let you go, man, off sports, I know you cover a lot of topics. What's your thoughts on this this DJ Envy situation, man? How what were what were your reaction when you first heard about this kind of situation?
Well, it's sad to me because
Yeah.
I'm one of those type of people that always watches like the American greed and stuff like that. I'm interested in things like that. I just kind of like to know what's going on. And the system in general is not set up for poor people. It's not, the system is not set up to help poor people get out of the hole that they're in. Everything is backwards. You know what I'm saying? The higher interest rate goes to the poor people and the low interest rate goes to the rich people, which makes no sense because a rich person can pay more in taxes than a poor people. Little things like that. It's frustrating to me. So my problem with DJ Envy and the guy Caesar and all these other guys out there is that, and I know it's not politically correct, but hey man, if you're gonna scam somebody, go scam some white people. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
don't do it to your own people. You know what I mean? Like, we're already struggling. And so if we happen to have $10,000 or $50,000, or God bless, maybe, a grandparent or a parent left us with 100 G's or whatever, right? We have to, as a community that doesn't have a lot of generational wealth, we have to be smart about that so our kids have a little something, when they start off. Because me and my wife talk about this all the time. By the time that we were adults, we had nothing. You know what I mean? Like, we had nothing built in, for us. We had no house, we had no insurance, we had no trust fund, we had nothing. So you have to start. It's hard to start from zero in this society. And so for Envy and Caesar, regardless of how deep Envy was into it. I don't know if he actually physically took money, from these people, but he's in the videos and he's clearly getting people from a certain community to either give Caesar money or whoever to give money and telling them stuff, and then and these could be their life savings and stuff like that. That kind of that hurts me, and that he's not taking any responsibility, for that, or trying to help give these people their money back. I saw that they took like $300,000 from a dead guy, and now his kids, don't have a trust fund. Like, and I say we as meaning us, we have to be better, right? Because we already have society holding us back. If we held each other or hold each other back, that's like a double whammy. So that's what's frustrating me when I see these scammers, and you can tell when you see these scammers out there, they're selling the dream, because Black people from the jump have been like, they're trying to get rich quick because they've been told money is the root of everything that can save them. That's why the lottery makes so much money every week. I don't know if he should go to jail. Like, I don't know exactly what he was involved in, but it was clear that he was taking advantage of a community that he's a part of, and that's sad, but that's not unusual to see. Is that when we're in our own communities, we're getting held down by people above us, and then we hold down each other. And it's kind of sad to watch. And I talk about that all the time. There are people, Black people, that I don't particularly like in the industry, in the media industry, but I bite my tongue on it, because if I say something and I argue with this person, or I expose them or whatever, what is that doing besides the white people sitting there laughing at us fighting? You know what I mean? Or now it's another brother or another sister that's out of a job that could tell a story or that can help somebody else. Just because I don't particularly care for them, why am I trying to bring them down, which is going to hurt more people overall? And I wish more people, thought like that. And then we wouldn't always be bickering, with each other and trying to crabs in a barrel type of situations that we have a lot.
Yes, that's sad, man. It's and when you look at the pictures of the seminars, it's like, you charging a room, you got 200-300 people in the room, they paying $500, and they probably thinking, I'm gonna take this $500, I'm gonna really learn something. You know what I mean? And that, like you said, it's a room full of people that look like us. You know what I mean? That's the hardest part about it. I don't wish
it's kind of like it's kind of like what I used to tell people about the National Association of Black Journalists, is that I've been to a lot of seminars, right, or a lot of journalistic conferences, right, and a lot of times they're $100 maybe, or whatever. Just like when I was younger, $100 or free in some regards, right? And I go to NABJ, and it's $600-700, and like a Black student can't afford that, and you promoting the party more than the jobs. And like it's we always are trying to make a buck,
Right.
but we don't have the bucks.
Right.
If everybody just takes all the bucks and don't spread around the bucks, we're not gonna benefit, from that. So I hope if Envy didn't do anything illegal, at least I hope that he learned a lesson. Is that even if it was totally legit and these people were paying, like you said, $90, $500 for these seminars that really wasn't gonna teach him, anything, and he knew that, and he still took their money, maybe, he's learned from this, and the potential of going to jail will make sure that he doesn't do it again.
Yeah, that's tough, man. That's tough. I'm gonna see how it go. Now, my favorite phrase of yours, because I had to write down a lot of them, but man, how did you come up with the milk yacht? That's my favorite one.
You froze on me. I'm sorry.
How did you come up? How did you come up with the phrase the milk yacht?
The milk yacht. Yeah. A lot of people ask me about that, and it actually comes from a Kyrie Irving story. It wasn't a story that I did, so it wasn't like I exposed him or anything. But I guess Kyrie, the paparazzi, they caught Kyrie on a yacht, and back then, this was not like. What am I trying to say? Brother Kyrie. This wasn't brother, elevated mind Kyrie. This was like young NBA Kyrie. and they caught him on a yacht. There was a lot of flat booty women, on it. And it's a true story. It already, and a lot of the stories that we do, they're not they're not new stories. They're stories that I just seen somewhere else. So I was like, I need some way to, explain this, in a creative way. And, I'm like, well, he's on a yacht. And, we always talk about the milk, So, Kyrie Irving, enjoying his photos of Kyrie Irving, enjoying his time on the milk yacht.
Yeah.
And, it kind of, the phrase took off bigger than the story. And let me always phrase this, like, I'm not like Dr. Umar, right? I'm not against, I'm not against interracial. People sometimes think, because I like to say milk and milk of magnesia and stuff like that I'm against interracial relationships. That's not the case. My wife's actually half, Mexican. So it's not that at all. And it's just I'm trying to bring some levity and some light, to some of these stories. And I always say, look, you can date whoever you want as long as you're not disrespectful to your own race, or the person that you're with is not disrespectful to your own race. Like, now some brothers be out here and they be on the milk, and then they're talking about the milk is better than the chocolate. And, I can't agree with that, but if you just a brother that's like, look, I like chocolate milk, I like vanilla milk, I like 2% milk, I like almond milk. If you like all of that, hey, I'm cool. I'm cool with that.
Yeah. And I'm with you, man. Like, I don't care who you date. I tell people, like, honestly, to me, the fact that people joke about it is a sign of acceptance. You know what I mean? If we were scared to joke about it, that would be a problem. Like, it's funny. You can date whoever you want, but just take the jokes with it, man. The milk yacht is hilarious. Did you see O.J. Simpson review the chest bump?
The chest bump, yeah. What do you say? The boulders or the buildings jumping in. OJ is OJ is a sensitive topic to talk about, because I'm just going to explain it like this, right? If you truly believe that OJ kind of like slaughtered, like, 2 people, and we kind of just talk about him now like he's an uncle, that is a little kind of messed up, right? Like, it's kind of if your next door neighbor was like, you thought he was a murderer, you wouldn't kind of think it's really hard to explain, because I think there is still some like denial in the fact that he's OJ, so you just don't want to believe that he was capable, of that, even though there's a lot of evidence to the contrary. And he was found now guilty. And I do think there's a part of it that how corrupt the police are. So it's possible that something else happened. But I do find it sometimes a little like, when I'm doing an OJ story or OJ's hanging out with like people and stuff, it's like, I hope he didn't do it, because this will be kind of effed up that we just kind of joking about this. That's but I would say this, OJ, even after all that, he still prefers to milk himself. Yeah, you would think that would have got him off milk forever, but nope. Every time I've ever seen OJ, and I've seen OJ in real life, like after that, there's always some milk around. He's in Vegas now, so he pops up from time to time, and there's always some older milk in the area.
When he beat the case, he went on a milk rampage.
Yeah, the juice is but here's the thing, and I'm saying this, and I'm not trying to be insensitive or anything, but his sports takes are not bad. They're really good. I mean, he is one of the greatest running backs of all time, so he knows what he's talking about. So when he asks him like specifically about football and stuff, it's really intelligent, type of stuff, to the point that, like, man, you wish he didn't allegedly kill some people, because maybe he would be on like First Take or something like right now.
Yeah, because for somebody his age, he really speaks the game in a way that's relatable to the modern game. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I see you got the Bucks winning the championship, man. Last question. So, thoughts on the Dame trade? You think that put him over the top?
Well, that's my guy Daniel. He's our NBA reporter. And he's really big, on that. I'm not as gung ho on it. I'm still kind of on the Nuggets, and because they're kind of in their prime right now. Uh, I didn't like the way Dame went about it, And here's the thing: for years, when I say I tried to tell Dame, that I don't mean like he was standing next to me, but for years I just kind of hinted like, "Hey, man, you might want to not say, you ran away from the grind. You might want to not criticize these guys for, moving to other teams." Because I always felt like there was going to be a time; it was going to be his time at some point, and then it's all going to come back on him. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what happened. He it came back on him, all of this stuff that he said before. And people don't understand, like when they talk bad about Kevin Durant and stuff like that, there's a big difference between being a free agent and going wherever the hell you want to go and having 4 years left on your contract and forcing a trade. And you can't get mad when you got 4 years left on your contract and they just, they don't want to trade you to South Beach because you're getting a divorce from your lady and you want to play around, on the beach. So I don't know. Because, I think Dame is an excellent player and a clutch player. Um, he's never played with anybody like Giannis, before. But he's also he's never really gotten over the hump of anything, in the NBA, and you never know how that's gonna, play out. But the NBA, I always think is the most interesting league. I think it maybe because you can see their faces, no helmets and stuff like that. I think the social media for the NBA is the best. The season is like a 6 month like show, like on Disney Plus or something like that on Netflix.
Yeah.
It's like a documentary.
Yeah.
I think there's about 10 teams this year that can say they have a legitimate shot, and the difference will be just like always, who stays healthy when it comes time to playoff time. I think if Giannis and Dame stay healthy, they better get to at least the Eastern Conference Finals because let me tell you, if they don't make it to probably the finals, hell is going to come down on Dame because this is what he wanted.
Yeah. Great point. Great point, man. I'm gonna let you watch your guy LeBron. Being from Ohio, I know your career kind of correlates with the start of that. I know you're probably surprised still doing it after 21 years.
It's great. I saw LeBron in high school, believe it or not.
Wow.
I was a freshman in college, and I was dating a girl that actually lived in Akron. And I went back, I think, to her spot like for Thanksgiving or something. And he was a big deal back then. And I remember I went and watched him play, and I said, "This guy's the second coming of Magic Johnson." He was that good of a passer, even in high school. I didn't even think he was that great of a scorer. He just was a gifted passer. And him and Maurice Clarett was like the big thing in Ohio back then. And it's crazy because, LeBron and Kobe, those guys, when I was 19 and they were 17 or whatever it may be, and then you snap your finger and it's 20 years later. And they've done, of course, all they're going to do, and I've carved out my little piece of the stuff that I've done, and it's like you just snap your fingers, and 2 decades goes by, and it's like wow, and it is kind of weird still watching LeBron play when all these other guys that I grew up watching, they're all retired. So like all the guys from my high school days and early college, they're all retired now. So he's kind of a last. We're kind of that last. LeBron, KD, Steph. When they kind of make their way out, I think that's when will Wemby be the new guy or some Luca? Somebody else steps up and becomes the new face. Of the NBA, and that's going to be happening sooner than later. But shoot, by the time Wemby's in the league 10 years, I'm probably going to be like a grandpa or something like that.
Yeah. Does Harden finish the season with the Sixers?
Probably not. You can't have Fat Harden in messing up things as it is. It's I know that some people said his mom is not feeling well, so that's also on it. But basketball is probably the one sport. If the star player or one of your two star players just is like, I'm not going to play for you, 99% of the time they get moved. It's just the question is, does he get moved to the team that he wants to get moved to, or do they just look for the the best deal? A lot lot of pressure on the Sixers because Embiid cried for that MVP award. He campaigned for that MVP award, only to watch Jokic say, I don't care, and then win a title, and then go back to his horses. So he has to, he's getting to that point of his career where if you don't win like there's always a demarcation point with superstar athletes where if you haven't won a title, people start wondering, are you going to be Charles Barkley? Are you going to be Dan Marino? And you don't want that. You don't want to be that superstar that's got. Nobody ever talks bad about Dirk because he got one. Sometimes nobody ever talk bad about Giannis because he got one. Nobody ever talk bad about Jokic because he got one. You don't want to be Joel Embiid. You don't want to be Damian Lillard. You don't want to be these guys that were like superstars in your era, but don't have a ring, because no matter what they try to tell you, it's always going to get mentioned.
Man. Amazing stuff, sir. Amazing stuff. Can you shout out the website and the Twitter for my listeners so everybody can come follow?
Absolutely. You follow me on Twitter at BSO, like for the last, 15 years or whatever it's been. Black Sports Online. We actually just did a kind of a refresh of the site, make it a little easier for people to check it out on the mobile, check it out on the desktop and stuff. So, we've added a lot of new content. We've making sure that we got the NFL, the UFC, the boxing, the NFL, the NBA, baseball. I think, in my opinion, this year has been the most diversified amount of content that we've had on the site in years, where no matter what type of fan you are of, you always got the Dwight Howard stuff too, if you need it. We always got that stuff too, but no matter what type of fan you are, you're going to you go to the site, you're going to find something that you want to read and check out. And also, just a quick plug, my daily show now that you can catch on YouTube at BSO TV or catch on Twitter or on Facebook is Headlines with Robert Littal. I've coined myself the best rapper reporter in the industry now after I dropped my intro. Go check that out. Tell me what you think about it and everything. Each day we're going to take the 4 or 5 biggest headlines on BSO, do a quick little video. I always say quick video. It's supposed to be 5 minutes and end up being 20 minutes today. So, I'm just long-winded.
Yeah. Nah, the stories are amazing, man. And you're a trailblazer of my generation, man. I salute you, brother. Keep doing what you're doing, kicking down doors for guys like me and guys behind me looking at me. I'm inspired by you, and my loyalty to you is unquestioned, man. I appreciate all the things you do that I won't even mention. It's just it's beyond above and beyond, man. So I wish you and your family the best, and I thank you for taking this time for me, man.
Hey, no problem. Like I always say, I have great appreciation for people like you and everybody, because I've got to achieve my dreams because of all the people that believed, in me. And I'm able to take care of my family because of all the people that believe in me. So the least thing that I could do is if people reach out to me or have questions or need help, is to answer those calls, answer those texts, answer those emails, answer those DMs. So if anybody's out there and they just have a question or need help or advice or anything that you want, I'm right here. I'm not doing anything. I'm playing Spider-Man 2, watching the basketball games, doing a couple of stories here and there. Trust me, I'm not too busy to answer a question. So feel free to reach out at any time. And thank you, brother, once again. So yes, I'm going to go up and go check out the Nuggets and the Lakers and see what's going on. My wife's a big Nuggets fan, so I can hear her up there clapping and screaming and yelling at the coaches.
I said, yeah. Yes, sir. Well, you enjoy your night, sir. And once again, I appreciate you.
All right. Have a good one.
You too. Thank you.